How does someone good become isolated, hardened, and convinced their cause is the only good? What breaks a person so they choose the goal over their own morality? What turns sacrifice into obsession and righteousness into a weapon? How does a fractured soul decide the mission matters more than the moral code? The paradox triad is a way of understanding those complex individuals who carry deep internal conflicts. People who are driven by moral ideals, but are also haunted by their past, struggles, and uncertainties. Imagine a shattered mirror, each fragment reflecting a different part of their soul. Before I dive into the paradox triad, let me explain what a triad is, and the most well-known example, the dark triad. The dark triad is a cluster of three related but distinct personality traits: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. They're not clinical diagnoses, they're personality dimensions measured on a spectrum. These traits often co-occur and can amplify one another. A narcissist with Machiavellian cunning and psychopathic callousness becomes especially dangerous. But traits don't operate in a vacuum. Stress, opportunity, and social systems shape how they show up. Now that you understand what a triad is, let's break down the paradox triad, or para-triad for short. The para-triad is grounded in three clinical syndromes: major depressive disorder, social anxiety disorder, and antisocial personality disorder. But naming diagnoses alone is not enough. Each disorder contributes a specific trait that produces the paradox. Trait 1: sacrificial depression. Sacrificial depression draws on major depressive disorder. People in this state turn suffering into identity and use martyrdom as proof of value. Sacrifice becomes fuel. They accept pain to atone, to belong, or to prove their worth. Over time, self-negation hardens into a commitment to suffering that can justify extreme choices. This emotional baseline creates vulnerability, but it needs social fracture and ethical recalibration to become a full paradox. Hypervigilant sociality combines social anxiety disorder with persistent paranoid mistrust. It features an intense fear of negative evaluation, paired with a habit of inferring hidden agendas or malice from ambiguous cues. This produces a defensive posture, self-silencing, abrupt cutting of ties without negotiation, and a tendency to view allies as threats. The result is accelerating isolation. Neutral kindness is read as conspiracy, and the person comes to believe they must act alone. Alone, anxious and hardened, their moral compass can begin to shift. Trait 3: moral displacement. Moral displacement is the ethical switch that permits harmful action in service of a goal. Rooted in antisocial personality disorder, style traits impulsivity, callousness, and the ability to suppress remorse in the moment it allows a person to override empathy when pursuing their objective. The goal becomes the standard. Opponents are dehumanized. Harm is justified as necessary, and any later remorse is reframed or used strategically to advance the mission. How they interact with each other. Together, these three create a self-reinforcing loop. Trauma deepens major depressive disorder and sacrificial identity. Social hypervigilance erodes support and reframes social cues as threat. Antisocial style moral suppression allows action without immediate regret. Each step justifies the next. Sacrifice enables isolation. Isolation enables ruthless pragmatism. And ruthless pragmatism deepens the wound that began it all. The paradox is simple and tragic. The desire to do good becomes the logic that corrodes one's ethics. I made this video because I kept noticing a recurring character type. People who begin with decent intentions but are warped by trauma, isolation, and a changing moral compass. These figures defy simple labels, not pure heroes, not pure villains, and they reveal a new kind of anti-hero. That pattern is what I call the Paradox Triad. What you can expect in the next breakdowns: key points of the Triad. We'll unpack how each trait looks in behavior, thought patterns, and visuals. Dark Triad versus Para-Triad. Examples in media. Concrete scenes and beats where the Para-Triad shows up how the pattern unfolds over time and what triggers escalation. Character mapping preview. In upcoming episodes, I'll map 3 archetypal characters to each trait and do deep dives into their arcs, choices, and visuals. I'm keeping my top 3 central figures a surprise. Until the next video, I want you to pick yours. Comment below with 3 characters you think best represent the Paradox Triad or that match each trait: sacrificial depression, hypervigilant sociality, moral displacement. I'll feature viewer picks and compare them to my selections in the next episode.